guys, and welcome to Facebook Live, which I'm so excited about because if you're on here, you're either a business owner, an entrepreneur, or you're in sales. But even if you're not either of those, I think you're going to find this so interesting. It's so relevant with our changing world right now. And you saw that the topic of this Facebook Live is all about the fourth industrial revolution. What happens when the robots come for your job? So of course we have a focus on sales because we have this really exciting event coming up on the 21st of October, which is my Influence Breakthrough Sales Summit. But really, I think that you're going to find this fascinating no matter what role or position or industry you're in. And I'm so excited to introduce my two guests here joining me live from their offices. The first person I'd love to introduce you to is someone who you no doubt have probably heard before, seen in the media or at an event somewhere. He's a friend of mine. His name is Graeme Codrington. And I met Graeme many years ago through the speaking circuit. I've always been blown away by his presentations and how he just gets us to think of the right questions to ask ourselves about what's happening in the future. You know, as a mentalist, I often try to get my audience into a state of awe. But when I see people listening to Graeme and his insights on the future, they just have the same amount of, mind blowingness. I don't know if that's even a real word, mind-blowingness. But here is Graeme Codrington, who is an expert on the future of work. The one thing that I love about Graeme is that he travels an enormous amount. I think Graeme, I think that you've probably had about 18 countries this year alone that you've traveled to.
I think that's what it is. I'm off to Spain in 2 days' time, and between now and October we'll be in another 4 countries. So, yeah, international is what I love doing, but South Africa is home, definitely.
Yeah, well, I've presented in over 30 countries, but I think that's what you do typically in 1 year. That's been over my entire career. So I'm really impressed, and I can't wait to hear your insights, from a global perspective, because you also run a global team called Tomorrow Today, correct?
That's correct. And, that global experience is actually fascinating at the moment, because as much as all of our countries are different, there are some massive global themes going around at the moment, global themes of political change and economic change, but global themes that influence and impact us as individuals. As the world is changing and technology is changing, it's changing everywhere for all of us. Everybody's lining up for their new iPhone these days, no matter which country you're in, rich or poor. There's a queue around the block. So there's a lot to learn from all over the world, first and third world, developing. There's something for us to learn from every part of the planet.
Yeah, definitely. And you obviously have a team as well, which leads me into introducing our next guest for this Facebook Live, which is someone from your team, Graeme. It's Zanele Njapha. And Zanele, I first actually met Zanele this year, was at a Professional Speakers Association conference that was held, a weekend conference, and I was blown away by her presentation on stage. And she has a fascinating speciality all around learning and unlearning stuff, which we're going to get into in a short while, in just a couple of minutes. So let me just bring Zanele up onto screen over here, and she can join us. Hi, Zanele, how are you?
Hello, Gilan. Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Zanele, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your role in the team here at Tomorrow Today.
Okay, so my role in the team at Tomorrow Today is also basically as a speaker and as a futurist, but my focus is more on learning, unlearning, and relearning. So I've got a background in education and educational psychology, and basically looking at how innovation is all rooted in behaviors that we quite notice a lot in children, things like resilience, creativity, inquisitiveness, playfulness, and how all of those are actually key to innovating. And it's sort of just bringing all of that in and just factoring in how we learn and what we best inculcate into our learning cultures in order to innovate. Yeah.
Wow, I think it's so relevant, especially in times of change, because as things change, we need to change as well. And often, from my understanding, I'd love to hear from you, is that even the way that we've learned things is probably outdated, and we need to adapt and change as well. And so, Graeme, just before we get started into this, I just wanted to ask you to give us a little bit of background around what you do, because I know that you've authored more than one book, besides the global travel. But if you could give us just a a bit of insight into your background.
Yeah, so my background's always interesting because I started life as an accountant, which I'm not sure most people who meet me can guess. I worked at KPMG, although for our South African friends, I normally say I started life at a well-known accounting company these days. Humor available there given KPMG's current reputation. But I'm very proud of that background because it gave me a business background, looking at the business from all angles, from that audit inside, understanding what can go wrong. I moved from there into the tech industry, was headhunted by a little tech startup, and then started Tomorrow Today, our company, nearly 20 years ago now. And as Zanele said, we are futurists. We look at what's changing in the world. Futurist doesn't mean that we predict things. We don't have a crystal ball or anything like that. But what we do is we track trends, and then we help people to prepare for whatever the future might bring. And Zanele's particular expertise is on the whole learning culture and our ability to learn and unlearn. I suppose my expertise is on the intersection of people, technology, and organizational design. So to put that into English, it's about what happens when technology changes and how does that impact how we work. So I position myself as an expert on the future of work.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, I'm excited to dive into our discussion over here. And just to give a little bit of context for those of you who are tuning in either live right now or watching the replay of this live, we do have a special focus on sales because actually Graeme and Zanele will be presenting from stage at our upcoming event called the Influence Breakthrough Sales Summit. I'll show you guys a little bit of information about that on screen now, just so you can see. Ticket sales are open at influenceinstitute.com/sales summit, and we're still in the early bird phase, which ends on the 1st of October. But we're going to be talking about not just your typical sales training at this summit, but also preparing you for the future of sales as well, because obviously we need to be able to have longevity to the techniques and principles that we're learning, so that obviously your results can keep on coming in even as things change over time. And so Graeme is going to be presenting some ideas, and then Graeme and Zanele with a couple of others will be on a panel discussion where we'll be exploring more all about the future of sales. So that just gives you a little bit of context around why we're having this conversation. And right at the end of this, I'll give a little bit more information for those of you who are interested in attending that event. But just to kickstart our conversation right now and really get into the meat of it, Graeme, a lot of people have heard of the fourth industrial revolution. Some people know more than less. I'd really love to hear from you. What exactly, in your words, is the fourth IR? Is it just a cliche? Maybe you can give us some insights on that.
Yeah, and you know what, I think people are in the eye-rolling phase at the moment when they hear about the fourth industrial revolution, because you can't go to a conference without it being on the agenda these days, which is a good and a bad thing. The bad thing is everybody thinks they've heard everything that there is to say about it. The good thing is it's the right conversation to have. At any event, at any conference, we have to understand that the future of the particular industry we're talking about, the future of sales for the 21st of October, is going to be different from the past. There's no doubt. And there's a number of reasons for that difference. And the label of the fourth industrial revolution, I think is a really valuable and interesting one. To understand it, you need to understand what the first three were. So the first industrial revolution was engines and steam machines and so on. The second industrial revolution was probably best exemplified by Henry Ford, when he took those machines and he changed the way that cars were made. Henry Ford didn't invent the car. He didn't invent any new components for the car. He just changed the way that it was built. And by 1921, they were producing one car every 32 seconds. I don't know if you knew that 100 years ago. It's insane, isn't it? And it was just this continuous production process. The third industrial revolution is the digital revolution that brought us computers, the internet, Facebook Live, all these things, as well as artificial intelligence and automation and robots and so on. Now, what's happening now and through the 2020s? So if we're thinking about the future of our industry or the future of our function or the future of sales, it's not that there's going to be a lot more technology that's going to be invented. We have all the technologies that we need. What's about to happen is we are going to reimagine the way that we work. We're going to work in fundamentally different ways. And maybe just a quick example, which I think people find very useful. Imagine, you might hear I've got a little bit of a throat infection. I'm struggling a little bit with a cough. And so I went off to the doctor a day or two ago, and the doctor gave me some medicine. And after he had given me the script and we were saying goodbye, he said, see you soon, as I walked out of the door. And I kind of looked at him and I said, absolutely not, doctor. You know, you've done your job. My best life is if you and I never meet again. You know, I don't and the problem is that we have a sick care system. We only see our doctors when we're sick. We can imagine, though, let's say we take all of that Fitbit data that we've got on our arms all the time. We take all the medical data. We take our data that's in our computers. And all of that is made available to our doctors in a massive artificial intelligence-driven system. Wouldn't it be great if you got an email from your doctor 3 days before you got sick, you know, saying, Gilan, you're in danger of getting sick. Just make sure you look after yourself. Take these, preventative vitamins or whatever, or keep yourself, don't go near that primary school. That primary school's a hotbed of disease at the moment, you know. Don't run. I see you run past there every day. Don't do that today. So if we can shift our medical system into something that is preventative, proactive, predictive, we'll make a huge impact on overall health and change the system entirely. Now, let's make that a sales conversation. If you are a sales rep in a medical system, so you're selling pharmaceuticals or you're selling medical supplies, what can you do? What information might you have access to today that could help you get into a predictive, proactive, preventative type system? And of course, the same would apply if you're selling insurance or motor cars or clothes. We need to shift into a new kind of mindset. And for me, that's actually at its heart what the fourth industrial revolution invites us to do. Not invent new technologies, not get all super tech clever with the way we do sales, but rather to reimagine the entire process with a blank piece of paper in the digital world.
Wow. I mean, that's, to be honest, you don't hear many people talking about the fourth industrial revolution in terms of creativity and mindset, which is what I'm picking up from you here. And I think it does take a certain amount of that. How do you think in terms of salespeople? Because what I would love is for people to leave this particular Facebook Live asking themselves different questions on how they can prepare. And I know that at the conference, we're going to be going into a lot more information, how to really make it practical. But how do you think salespeople can prepare better for the future?
So at the conference, we're going to be sharing some of the research that our team has done on this. And we're going to be showing people 8 skills that we think are absolutely essential for making yourself future-proof, if you like, for getting yourself ready for the fourth industrial revolution. And we'll go into those 8 skills in details. For today, I know this is just a Facebook Live and we're kind of dipping in and out of it. I'll leave Zanele to talk about the learning and unlearning piece, which is her specialty. But just for people to think about it, you've got to raise your game. You've got to be thinking about the future, not just in terms of all the shiny toys that we've got, the new technologies and things. And we've got to think, what is the human element in the digital universe? What are the things that machines can't do? So with artificial intelligence and machine learning, machines can do a lot of clever things for us. But they, at the moment at least, and for the next 10 years or so, they don't have emotions. They don't have empathy. They don't have curiosity. They are not asking great questions of the system. And that's where I really encourage people, all people in all industries and all parts of the business to start with, is to say, what are the great questions that can unlock systems change? And in my mind, it's very simple. It's about asking, what am I frustrated with? Might have been in my job for a few years, so I've forgotten that I'm frustrated because we're just doing it the way it's done now. But if you step back and say, does it really have to be done that way? Does this form have to be filled out? Why do I have to put the information in 2 different places? Why don't I have an app? You know, all of those questions actually are prompting you to say, is there a better system? And what we need to be looking for, very, very simply, is not artificial intelligence. That sounds like you've got to buy some Google-level supercomputer and put it in your basement. We need, instead of AI, we need to think about IA, which I call intelligent assistance. And we need to be thinking, what can we use our computers, our smartphones, our internet connections for that can take some of the frustrations away from our systems and intelligently assist us to do a better job. And of course, one of the keys to those is being prepared to unlearn what our processes and systems are at the moment.
Yeah, great. Wow. And I want to move on to that unlearning right now. I must just say, I love that term of IA, intelligent assistance, and everything that you've been describing so far, Graeme. I can see now why unlearning, seems so obvious. But often we don't know what we don't know, and things are obvious only once they come into our field of awareness. So, Zanele, why don't you tell us, please, more about this unlearning, because this is really your specialty, and maybe you can give us some ideas on what that means and what we should actually do.
Sure, not a problem. So I love that Graeme led in so nicely into it. And most organizations will say, we're such a learning organization. We've got all of these lovely systems in place. We've got MOOCs. We've got all of these lovely resources. However, an article that I read not so long ago in the Harvard Business Review was actually saying that one of our biggest problems is that we are not unlearning. And that actually prohibits the learning process as a whole. So unlearning really is just about that shift that occurs in your perspectives. So it's challenging perspectives that are currently standing. And Graeme spoke about things that have always been in place just now. So it's all about asking the questions, asking different questions, because a lot of the time it's the same questions that we're continuously asking. But unlearning is saying, let's challenge those perspectives that have been long-standing. What are they saying to us? And how can we then create a shift where things are no longer the same? So it relates to our tools, our skills, our models, and all sorts of things within and around our business that no longer serve us. And here's the key here, especially with unlearning. It's that these particular skills and models have been in place, and not only are they not serving us, but they can also be detrimental and can close off that entire learning process. And Navi Rajo, who's an innovation advisor, says that learning and unlearning is literally just a mix between expertise and naivety. So intentional naivety, saying that I'm going to put myself into a position where I'm starting from scratch, keeping in mind what I've learned, because obviously you don't want to completely disregard the knowledge and the skills that you have, but putting yourself in a place where you can actually absorb new information with a clear mind that's ready to actually ingest new information and try new experiences. And experimentation then comes in as a very big part of unlearning. How willing are you to experiment, to try things out, and to get things wrong? Obviously, you want to watch the level at which you experiment, and this will speak a little bit more about on the 21st. But the experimentation part of it is quite key. And the experimentation does need to be context-based. So you just look at you look at all sorts of factors that could influence that, and then you decide on whatever experimentation needs to be done. And it's a very big part of it. And just bringing it into a little bit more into the sales arena, having a look at something like your customer relationship management systems. How are those particular systems speaking to the way in which the consumer is viewed now. So before, our consumer was just a consumer, but we're moving into an era where the consumer is now someone who wants to be recognized as a co-creator within the process of business, as a co-creator within sales as a whole. So how are your systems and everything else now being unlearned from what you previously know, where the consumer was just an independent part of our system, to bringing them in? So how do you unlearn what you used to know? And then how do you then relearn better because you've unlearned what no longer serves you in this context?
That's amazing. I think it's so good to know what the dangers are if you don't actually do this, because just listening to you, I imagine that one of the biggest obstacles is that sense of vulnerability to practice things like curiosity. But what actually happens when companies or when people fail to unlearn and relearn?
Okay, so bad things happen when this is the case. But a really great example here is in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, we had our refrigeration or our chilling industry experienced its very, very start. So you would have people that would harvest ice, so ice harvesting businesses. And so it would require that you go out into a colder part of the world. You harvested ice from a pond that's been iced over. You cut these blocks of ice out and you harvested them. So their idea of innovation was bigger horse, bigger sleigh, and maybe even a sharper saw or bigger saw. And then about 30 years later, we saw ice factories then come on board. So you no longer, the challenges of waiting for weather conditions and other perfect conditions were then eliminated. So then there was that whole move in the refrigeration industry. And then about 30 years later, we were introduced to the refrigerator. And then all of these things that were present in those last two examples were no longer existent. But here's the interesting thing about that, is that none of the companies that were in either the ice harvesting or the ice factories part of this revolution or evolution went on to what we call, or what Guy Kawasaki, who's an innovation facilitator, calls the next curve. None of those organizations were able to jump into what was the next thing within their industry. And I think one of the main things here was because their guiding ideas was somehow limited. And this speaks very much to unlearning as well. So they defined themselves as we're an organization that just cuts us, and not looking at how much more we can offer within our industry. And this is so important sales-wise, entrepreneurship-wise, and what your guiding idea and industry speaks to, whether it's in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years. And that also now goes back to sustainability and staying relevant. It's just all about jumping onto that next curve and making sure that whatever it is that your industry requires in a few years' time, because you're moving on and keeping relevant, you will still be around.
Brilliant. I cannot wait for the 21st of October to really dive into all of these. And I'm sure that people have a lot of questions as well on the day and in our panel discussion as well to really take this conversation further. We have run out of time. It's amazing. It always amazes me how any interesting conversations becomes like the Bermuda Triangle of time. But just to finish up here, Graeme, do you have any further thoughts about how salespeople can become future ready?
Maybe two things to leave with people as we finish here quickly. The first is, the biggest mistake you're going to make is to try and simply become better, cheaper, faster at what you do. And that applies to the business you work for as well. If the main focus on innovation is looking for new products, services, channels to market that help you deliver your stuff to your customers cheaper, better, faster, you're in big danger. Just as Zanele's been saying, we need to unlearn and relearn and think differently. And we're going to help you to do that. So the second thing I highly recommend, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this one, Gilan, is people should come on the 21st of October. I know you're putting a whole lot of work. We're just one tiny component of a massive series of workshops. And I think if people can't get there in person, Zanele and I will be there live and in person, which would be great. But if you can't get there in person, then definitely make sure you log in remotely. I'm looking forward to the day, and I'm sure it's going to be brilliant.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you, Graeme. And I guess that helps me perfectly segue into wrapping up the conversation, which is that if you found this to be interesting, if you are a business owner, or perhaps you wear a sales cap, if you're an entrepreneur, perhaps you're managing a sales team and you want them to come along. But we've got really a deep dive into many different topics. It is actually a really big summit. It is about 10 and a half hours. The doors open at 8 a.m. in the morning, and at 6:30 p.m. in the evening is when they'll close. We've got masterclasses, workshops, panel discussions, and we're going to have really quality people who have presented all around the world, helping you through every single phase throughout your entire sales process, as well as looking forward into the future, which I think is one of the most important things to do. So I'm going to quickly pull up onto screen here. For those of you who do want to get your tickets, what I encourage you to do is to get your tickets before Tuesday, the 1st of October. You can see that the URL is on screen there, influenceinstitute.com/sales summit. And when you get your early bird ticket, not only will you get it at a vastly reduced fee, but you're also going to get around 20,000 Rand bonuses in terms of extra online sales training. You can see all of this at the URL. I've got full descriptions of everything that you're going to get access to, and obviously the event itself will be able to deep dive into all of the topics that we're talking about, from finding new business to how you can actually influence trust and connection with people, how you can assist people to actually close deals with you. I don't like the term closing. I feel like it always feels like something I have to do to you. Really, it's about assisting you to make the right decision. So we're going to cover all of that and more in about 10 hours on the 21st of October. So go ahead, grab your tickets now. Please let your friends know. You may be watching this and you're actually not in sales, but you have friends who run a sales department, and we would love for you to let them know about it and send them the URL as well. But for right now, Graeme, Zanele, thank you so much for taking time. I know that your time is precious, and I really appreciate that you've taken time out of your day to be able to share some of the thoughts around what we'll be discussing on the 21st. And of course, this replay will be available. So if anyone has any questions and you're watching this and it's the replay, go ahead and ask us in the comments as well. And we will we'll try to get back to you, or at least be able to address that question live at the event as well. So guys, that is it from us. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch us and connect with us as well. And Graeme, Zanele, enjoy your day. I can't wait to see you guys soon on the 21st.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Ciao.
Bye.